really dislike Jake Paul. Now, I don't dislike him. I understand him. I want to make something clear. I would still kick the living fuck.
Andrew Tate completely humiliated Jake Paul on live TV in the most embarrassing way imaginable. Honestly, should we expect anything less from Jake? He has a knack for falling short of even the lowest expectations. First, he backed out of Andrew Tate's $3 million fight offer. Then, he had the nerve to involve Mike Tyson in a poorly staged fight. Jake clearly knew Tyson was far from his prime, but still chose to exploit the boxing legend for attention and a quick payday.
Because he's allowed himself to become the biggest clown on the internet, and now he's famous, right? Because he's an idiot. But he has a bunch of money, so he gets to...
Now, Jake Paul is making his next move. Try and provoke Andrew Tate into a fight he has no intention of actually stepping into. Why? Because Jake knows he'd lose. He's counting on Tate rejecting the offer so he can twist the narrative and inflate his ego. But Andrew Tate isn't taking the bait. Instead, he dismantled Jake on live television, exposing every bit of his facade for the world to see.
You only want to lose to them so you can say, well, I lost to Conor McGregor. Why don't you lose to an old man who's retired? I live in the real world, Jake. There's a whole bunch of fighters out here who live in the real world. Men who are dangerous and dead.
Andrew Tate turned the tables in epic fashion. Instead of rejecting the fight, he called Jake's bluff and accepted the challenge. And Jake's response? He disappeared, completely ghosted, proving once again that his talk is bigger than his game.
but I would whoop his ass. But he wouldn't take a fight against me because when he loses, I'm not nearly on his level of fame, right? So like he lost to who? Whereas if he loses to Conor McGregor, it's no big deal. Well, he lost to Conor McGregor, who cares, right? That's what it's about.
Jake's entire plan hinged on Andrew Tate refusing the fight, giving him the chance to spin a narrative about being the fearless warrior no one dares to challenge. But with Andrew calling his bluff and ready to throw down, Jake is in full panic mode. He never saw this coming and now finds himself backed into a corner with nowhere to run. The so-called fearless Jake Paul has gone silent, once again proving he's all talk and no action.
I'm not some washed-up UFC fighter. I'm not smaller than him. I would beat the living shit out of him, and if he wants to fight, I'll fight him any day of the week, and I'll fucking wreck him.
Andrew Tate didn't just challenge Jake Paul to a fight. He delivered a reality check so harsh it might as well have come with a warning label. He flat out called Jake's career a joke and accused him of turning boxing into a TikTok-friendly circus. Hard to argue when Jake's idea of competition includes a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. Speaking of Tyson, let's address Jake dragging this legendary heavyweight icon into his antics. Mike Tyson, a man who redefined boxing and became a global icon, was reduced to a content gimmick just so Jake could play tough. Andrew Tate nailed it when he said, "It wasn't boxing, it was elder abuse." Jake didn't see Tyson as the revered figure who transformed the sport. He saw a shortcut, a way to grab headlines without taking any real risks. And the worst part? He actually thought no one would notice.
However, I do understand what he's doing. I understand that he is very, very smart, even with his marketing angle. I'm just a YouTuber. You're not just a YouTuber. You're a full-grown man with the best coaches in the world who's dedicated his life to learning how to box for years. You know how to box. You're not a complete amateur. You know how to box very well. 3, 4, 5 years of training combat sports. You can box. The guy's not a jack.
Then there's the $3 million challenge. A serious, no-nonsense offer. Winner takes all. No excuses. Andrew Tate didn't care about the money. His goal was to expose Jake Paul for what he truly is. And what did Jake do? He ran. Not walked, not jogged, he ran. Here's the truth. Jake Paul thrives in controlled environments. His fights are carefully choreographed to protect his ego and maintain his narrative. He's the master of playing it safe while pretending to take big risks. But a fight with Andrew Tate, that's not part of the script. It's a gamble he can't afford, a risk that could shatter the carefully constructed facade of his entire brand.
He is not just a YouTuber. He is a young man training with Canelo and Ryan Garcia. When I made the video, I really disliked Jake Paul. Now, I don't dislike him.
Jake Paul's rejection of Andrew Tate's $3 million challenge wasn't just a strategic dodge. It was an admission of defeat. The loudmouth disruptor who loves calling himself a game changer fell completely silent when confronted with a real threat. It's not the first crack in Jake's carefully crafted persona, either. His loss to Tommy Fury already marked the beginning of his downfall, and a fight with Tate would have been the final nail in the coffin. Jake knew it. But here's the kicker. Andrew Tate didn't even need the fight to humiliate Jake. His public takedown was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Tate didn't just call Jake a fraud. He dismantled his entire existence with surgical precision. He exposed Jake as a kid playing dress-up in a sport he doesn't respect, a man whose career is built less on boxing and more on racking up TikTok likes. Tate's scathing line, Jake, your legacy isn't built on fights. It's built on TikTok captions, cut so deep Jake probably needed an ice pack for his ego. The fallout was brutal. Jake Paul, who thrives on projecting larger-than-life confidence, watched his facade crumble under Tate's relentless verbal onslaught. Social media erupted with memes and hashtags like #JakePaulExposed and #TateofsJake, as fans gleefully roasted him for dodging the $3 million winner-takes-all challenge. Even Jake's most loyal supporters began to second-guess their allegiance. The so-called fearless disruptor of the boxing world was now looking more like a runner, his persona as unstable as one of his over-the-top post-fight celebrations. Meanwhile, Andrew Tate walked away unscathed. He didn't need to step into the ring to prove his point. By simply issuing the challenge and watching Jake fumble, Tate cemented his dominance. Fans now see him as the real deal, a fighter who embodies respect, skill, and authenticity in a sport increasingly plagued by influencers and gimmicks. This wasn't just a win for Tate, it was a masterstroke. He emerged as a beacon of authenticity in a world where clout often overshadows talent, leaving Jake Paul exposed as nothing more than a loudmouth chasing likes.
$3 million. You put three, I put three. Winner takes all. You know my name, Andrew Tate. I will fight you any day, anytime. Let's fucking go. If I were to fight Jake Paul, I would take it completely seriously as a real fight, and I'd whoop his ass. I'd beat him. Jake, everyone thinks he's just...
For Jake Paul, this was nothing short of a PR disaster. His entire brand is built on the image of being fearless, a fighter willing to take on anyone. Rejecting Andrew Tate's challenge didn't just dodge one fight, it tore a massive hole in that narrative. This wasn't about avoiding a single opponent, it was about what that avoidance revealed. A fight with Tate wasn't just risky, it was a direct threat to the carefully constructed illusion Jake has spent years selling. And let's not forget his loss to Tommy Fury, which already exposed cracks in his armor. Facing Tate in the ring would have delivered the final blow, and Jake knew it. Andrew Tate's mic drop moment, Jake, you don't need boxing gloves. You need to stay on YouTube where losing isn't as painful, was the perfect final jab. Brutal, accurate, and so cutting it could have doubled as a blade. Jake's rejection wasn't just about skipping a fight. It was an unspoken admission. Deep down, Jake knows he's out of his league. Tate didn't need this fight to prove anything. His legacy is already solidified. But for Jake, this fight was critical to maintain his illusion of credibility. And now that illusion lies in ruins. The fallout from this debacle is colossal, and it's something Jake may never recover from. His road to redemption isn't just steep, it's practically vertical. Hype alone won't be enough to save his next fight. Now, he has to convince a skeptical audience that he's more than just a YouTuber with boxing gloves. And let's face it, that's a tall order when even your most loyal fans are starting to question your credibility.